Welcome to an AIB special presentation, Music of Resistance and Survival, a Holocaust Remembrance concert. It's part of a commemoration held March 23, 2015 at the Temple in Atlanta, Georgia. In this segment, AIB is honored to bring you a performance of music and theater for Metro Atlanta youth.
Friends, good morning and welcome to the Temple. I'm Rabbi Peter Berg, one of the rabbis here at the Temple, and I want to welcome you to Atlanta's oldest and Georgia's largest Jewish congregation. We're proud to welcome you here today to our historic sanctuary. I'm sure you've had a chance while you've been waiting to look around a little bit, but I'll just tell you that this sanctuary was built and has not been changed much since 1929. And the rabbis who constructed the sanctuary wanted it to look like King Solomon's temple. And it was designed at a time when Jews were beginning to feel comfortable and at home being both American and Jewish here in the city. And so it was designed to look similar to many of the other churches that were here at the time. If you look, you'll notice that the stained glass windows are red, white, and blue. That was because the Jewish community wanted to say that they were proud of being both Jewish and American. And the light that hangs from the middle, called the eternal light, hangs from the bald eagle, which is, of course, a symbol of freedom here in America. So feel free after the concert to look around and see some of the wonderful symbols, including the 12 tribes on the ceiling where the dome is, that make up our fabulous sanctuary. Our temple has a strong history of social justice and commitment to our community, and that was particularly true during the civil rights era, when our Rabbi Jacob Rothschild, spoke passionately about civil rights and inclusion and integration. Almost all of his sermons for several years were on that topic. And it wasn't always popular in the greater community. In 1958, the temple was bombed by the Klan because of the rabbi's outspoken sermons and positions about inclusion and integration. And the first integrated dinner that took place in the city of Atlanta was hosted at a hotel nearby, and on the podium were Dr. Martin Luther King and Rabbi Rothschild. So civil rights still plays an important part of our congregation, of who we are and what we stand for. You're in for a real treat today. We're grateful today for our sponsors, for Kennesaw State University, the College of Arts and School of Music, for the Temple, the Georgia Commission on the Holocaust, Kennesaw State University's Museum of History and Holocaust Education, and the Bremen Museum here in Atlanta. Cantor Hartman and I want to offer our profound gratitude to the amazing Dr. Lawrence Scher, who helped to make this event possible. You'll meet him this evening and see his creativity and his talent. Today is a special day for our community because we have the opportunity to share in the music of resistance and the music of survival. Our commemoration will be a combination of words and music and also of silence. Each of that holds a special place in Jewish history. These forms of worship and connection were defining moments in the temple sacrifices that took place in ancient days, and also the melodies that were uttered from the lips of those who watched their homes and their businesses and their lives shatter before their eyes. They would say in Hebrew, Ani ma'amin. They would say, I believe with perfect faith, and then they would sing. This is how we show our gratitude to God, through music, through prayer, and through silence. The way we highlight the meaningful words of our tradition, the way we add expression in our lives, the way we interpret our unique history, the way we involve a sense of awe for being alive, the way we seek self-examination, and the way we join together as one community. We are here today because humanity demands that we remember the Holocaust. There is a saying that there are 613 commandments in Jewish tradition, and that if there were to be one more commandment, one more important ideal in our tradition, it would be that we never forget, that we never give Adolf Hitler a posthumous victory for the horrific life that he led and for all of the tragedy that he brought to our earth. So we remember today not only what Hitler did to humanity and to the millions who died, but we also remember today the courageous individuals in the Warsaw Ghetto, the men, women, and children who fought bravely for survival and sometimes through song. We remember the righteous Gentiles, those people who were not Jewish, who risked their lives to save others. Today is a sacred obligation, not only for the survivors of the death camps and their children, but upon every American today and for all tomorrows. We are all here today because we believe in freedom, because we believe in human dignity. We remember, we care, we are sad, we try to understand, and we won't let it happen again. So now let us listen to the extraordinary stories, the magnificent music that will tell of resistance and survival. And today, these stories will become yours. Welcome to the temple.
My child, I want you to know that you are superior to all the other children in your class.
My child, I want you to know that you will never be anything more than you are now.
My child, I want you to know that you're wonderful.
Just look at your pretty porcelain skin.
Just look at your slumping shoulders.
Just look at your thoughtful expression.
Remember, you're just like me, and I was always the queen bee.
Remember that you will never be as good as any of your peers.
Remember that everyone deserves respect.
You are not to talk to people who are beneath you.
You are not the child that I had hoped for.
You are not greater or smaller than anyone else.
As you go out into the world, be careful not to associate with people who are different from you.
As you go out into the world, don't even bother trying to make new friends.
As you go out into the world, treat everyone with kindness.
One day, everyone will follow you.
One day, you will give up completely.
One day, you'll make a difference in the world.
Simon says, stand on one foot. Simon says, reach for the sky. Simon says, pinch your neighbor.
Ow!
Simon says, hit your neighbor.
Can't you see she's dangerous?
Simon says, ignore the problem.
Why are you listening to her? Can't you see this is wrong?
Simon says, remove the problem.
Get off of me! Stop!
Simon says, silence the problem.
Listen to her! She's dangerous! Stop! What are you doing?
Simon says, raise your right hand.
Good morning. My name is Lawrence Schur. I'm a composer at Kennesaw State University, and we're so glad to have all of you here this morning with us for this concert. After performances, like the actors or musicians, feel free to applaud. I know we're in a sanctuary, and you don't usually applaud when you're in a church or a sanctuary, but for a concert like this, it is appropriate to applaud. So can we all applaud together for those actors who just gave some great scenes? I want to tell you about my new piece for cello and piano that we'll be hearing soon. How many of you have a hero, someone who you admire? Can I see your hands? If you have a hero? Great, that's fantastic. I'd like to tell you about some of my heroes too. Many of my heroes were alive during the Holocaust, and they were creating music at that time. The first hero I want to tell you about is Ilse Weber. Ilse Weber was a singer and a guitarist. She was put in a concentration camp just because she was Jewish. While she was there, she continued to write poetry and to write songs. And we're going to hear a song this morning that she created while she was in the concentration camp. Your programs have the lyrics. If you want to see the poetry, right here in your programs, you can see the poetry that Ilse Weber wrote. And we're going to hear it first, sung by Cantor Deborah Hartman.
Figele, figele, Feuer, der Wind spielt auf der Leier. Spielt so süß im grünen Ried, die Nachtigall, die singt ihr Lied. Figele, figele, Weine, der Wind spielt auf der Leier. Figele, figele, Wiener, der Mond ist still und Hühner. Steht am dunklen Himmelzelt und schaut hernieder auf die Welt. Figele, figele, Wiener, der Mond ist dilatener. Figele, figele, Wiener, wie ist die Welt so still? Es stört kein Laut die süße Ruhe. Schlaf, mein Kindchen, schlaf auch du. Figele, figele, Wiener, wie ist die Welt so still?
Because Ilse Weber was a hero to me, and I love that music. Didn't she sing it beautifully? Just wonderful. I love that music and I love the poetry. So I decided to take that melody and put it in a piece for cello and piano. So see if you can hear how it sneaks in that melody when the cello and piano play it. Another hero of mine is Hirsch Glick. He was a poet that lived in the Vilna ghetto. He was still a teenager, about the age of some of the older ones of you, when the Nazis invaded his city. He wrote a special song called Zog nit kein Mol. This became a very important song to people all across Europe. This song is about staying strong even when your life is hard. The Jewish people were suffering and being killed. People who sang the song and the people who heard the song when others were singing it could feel better. It helped to give them the courage to fight back, to resist, to survive. Let's hear how it sounds when it's sung by Cantor Hartman first.
Sog nicht keinmal, als du gehst dem letzten Weg. Himmeln bleien auf verstellen bleien Tag. Kommen wird noch unser ausgebänkte Show. Das Wetter beugt in unser Trott, wir seien do. Kommen wird noch unser ausgebänkte Show. Das Wetter beugt in unser Trott, wir seien do. Von grimmen Palenland bis weit in Land von Schnee. Wir kommen mit unserer Pein, mit unserer Weh. Und wo gefallen sie, spritzt von unser Blut. Sprotzen wird vor unser Gewurre, unser Mut. Und wo gefallen sie, spritzt von unser Blut. Sprotzen wird noch unser Gewurre, unser Mut. Sog nicht keinmal, als du gehst dem letzten Weg. Himmeln bleien auf verstellen bleien Tag. Kommen wird noch unser ausgebänkte Show. Das Wetter beugt in unser Trott, wir seien do. Kommen wird noch unser ausgebänkte Show. Das Wetter beugt in unser Trott, wir seien do.
Now we're going to hear that same melody by my hero, Hirsch Glick, played in the piano. They're going to play the melody very straight ahead the first time, and then we're going to hear two variations. And the variations where you take the melody and you change it just a little bit. So I want you to see if you can hear in the variations when the melody is changed, if you can still hear the melody and recognize it. Let's hear the cello and piano play that now. How do you like this music so far? Can you raise your hand if you're enjoying this? I'm loving this. This is great music for me because it reminds me of my heroes. And I want to tell you about a third hero I have. And his name is Charae Krueger. That's kind of a hard name, isn't it? Would you like to learn how to say it together? Okay, great. So I'm going to say it first, and then I'll point to you, and then you can say it. So the first part is relatively easy. We're familiar with the sport of baseball, and in baseball there's a pitcher and a catcher. So I'm going to say catcher, and now you say it. Okay, let's try again. Catcher. Good. And the second part of the name is Ginski. Ginski. Catcher Ginski. Fantastic. You're all speaking Polish now. Charae Krueger was a poet, a collector. He did lots of things in the Vilna ghetto. He was friends with Hirsch Glick, the other hero of mine I told you about. And what Charae Krueger did was to work with children. He liked people your age. And there was a club for young people in the ghetto. And Charae Krueger worked in this club. He taught the young people. And he thought it would be really great if all the young people in the club could sing together. So he created a song for all the young people to sing together. The name of this song is Jugendhymn. And that simply means youth hymn, a song for young people. We're going to hear Cantor Hartman sing it now.
Unser Lied ist voll mit Treue, dreist ist unser Untergang. Gott der Säune wacht beim Teue, Sturmjungen mit Gesang. Jung ist jeder will es will nur, Joren haben keine Parteit. Alte kennen auch seine Kinder von einer neuen freier Zeit. Gläuben mir zu auf die Glieder, wieder stohlen mir die Reh. Geht der Bäuer, geht der Schmiede, lass mir alle gehen mit See. Jung ist jeder will es will nur, Joren haben keine Parteit. Alte kennen euch seine Kinder von einer neuen freier Zeit, von einer neuen freier Zeit.
This is the last piece on the program. It's by a German composer named Felix Mendelssohn. Mendelssohn was very famous as a composer and conductor, but when the Nazis came to power, they prohibited his music. They said that people couldn't play his music, only because Mendelssohn's grandfather was Jewish. His name was Moses Mendelssohn. He was a famous philosopher. So this is a work that Mendelssohn wrote very late in his life. It's for piano trio, which is this combination you see here, a violin, a cello, and piano. And the name of these players are the Summit Piano Trio. They're our faculty at Kennesaw State University. We're looking forward to hearing their performance of the Mendelssohn Piano Trio.
Welcome to an AIB special presentation, Music of Resistance and Survival, a Holocaust Remembrance concert, part of a commemoration held March 23, 2015 at the Temple in Atlanta, Georgia. In this segment, AIB brings you excerpts from the delivered speeches, as well as a performance by the Summit Trio of Kennesaw State University.
After the Holocaust, many survivors came to America, learning a new language and traditions and beginning new lives. They worked hard, they raised families, ever mindful of the absence of their own parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles, cousins, brothers and sisters. But over time, they recovered their voices and they found the words and used the power of their testimony to change the hearts and minds of others. Our cherished Holocaust survivors are our emissaries of Holocaust memory. Their determination to tell their own stories, as well as the stories of those who did not survive, serve as a testament to their dedication and their courage. They speak out because they understand the consequences of unchecked hate and anti-Semitism and racism. They speak out to fight the silence of ordinary people who during the Holocaust stood by, abdicating their responsibility to protect their friends, their coworkers, and their neighbors. They speak out to impress upon us the need to be guardians of justice, of freedom, and of humanity. And their legacy is our inheritance. And as the heirs to this inheritance, it is our obligation to honor and to preserve it. We must ensure that never again is not an empty slogan, but a call to action. This is how we honor their courage and their determination. This is how we carry on their legacy and their lessons.
I'm Dr. Catherine Lewis, Executive Director of the Museum of History and Holocaust Education at Kennesaw State. And I want to reflect, as Lawrence invited me to, on the musicians, that many of whom were suppressed. As we look back to this period, for the Nazis, music was seen not only as a source of national pride, but also as a tool that could reshape German society to reflect the racial and cultural ideology of the Third Reich. As this evening's concert has so profoundly demonstrated, they failed. That failure, sadly though, was plagued with violence and destruction. When Hitler came to power in 1933, many Jewish musicians were stripped of their positions. Some fled Germany to build careers outside of the grip of Nazism. Others who stayed or were forced to stay remained in Germany and formed a Jewish culture association, what many of you might know as the Kulturbund. They operated an orchestra, theater, and opera companies, and often did, of course, the work of Jewish performers. Arnold Schoenberg, reflecting on this transition, explained, "I have at least learned the lesson that has been forced upon me this year. It is that I am not German, I am not European, I am perhaps scarcely even human. I am a Jew." The Kulturbund and their commitment to artistic expression was a powerful kind of resistance, and that would later be echoed in the ghettos and the concentration camps and among partisan groups. Orchestras, choirs, and other musical groups were formed in many of the ghettos to give clandestine or public performances for those who were imprisoned. At Terezin, the ghetto in Czechoslovakia, the Nazis imprisoned many Jewish musicians and composers from across Europe. And some of these names may sound familiar to you: Gideon Klein, Pavel Haas, and Victor Ullmann. Music composed and performed in Terezin and these other ghettos reflect the dire living conditions under the Nazis and the longing for what was being destroyed. In the concentration camps of Auschwitz and Sachsenhausen and Buchenwald, They often had prisoner orchestras that were forced to give performances for SS officers and visiting dignitaries. For these performers, music became a kind of useful work that sometimes helped them survive. We're going to end this evening's concert with two pieces by musicians who were suppressed. One, the piano trio that you're just about to hear by Erich Wolfgang Korngold, is an amazing piece, and I know you're going to enjoy it. I never thought I was going to actually be able to utter these words, but of course he was Hungarian, and he happened to be in 1938 in Hollywood during the Anschluss, right, the annexation of Austria, working on the adventures of Robin Hood. And he would later say, again, I thought I would never say this, but he would say, Robin Hood saved my life. And he did. Let me close my remarks with a quote from Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the Lutheran pastor who was executed by the Nazis. He said, music, in time of care and sorrow, will keep a fountain of joy alive in you. Thank you.
Although Felix Mendelssohn died more than 70 years before the rise of the Nazi Party, he's an example of another kind of persecution. The Nazis attempted to erase his music, an integral force in German society, to erase from the hearts and the minds and the history of the country, silencing his musical voice through omission, censorship, and marginalization. The concert this evening will close with the first movement of the Piano Trio No. 2 by Mendelssohn. Grandson of the famous Jewish philosopher and mathematician Moses Mendelssohn, Felix was baptized as a Reformed Christian at the age of 7, his parents following in suit 6 years later. In his relatively short life, Mendelssohn was one of the most highly regarded and beloved composers on the continent. Although raised as a Christian, he was still a Jew, and as such was an embarrassment to the Nazis. How could a Jew have created such incredible music? How could he have been so beloved and so embraced by the German people? His works were allowed in the aforementioned Kulturbund Deutsche Juden, yet they were no longer acceptable in the mainstream culture. But it is through Mendelssohn's music that we hear his own yearning for reaching across religious and ethnic chasms, using music as a way of creating a conversation of sorts. It is only fitting that Dr. Scher wrote for cello. In Mendelssohn's Cello Sonata No. 2, the piano opens with a chorale, fundamentally reminiscent of a Bach chorale, to which the cello replies with an arioso that cellist Stephen Isserlis likens to the role of cantor. The piano restates the chorale, this time with the cantor, the cello, equally engaged. The movement ends with the arioso melody and the piano, successfully completing the transformational nature of the musical conversation. And music is used for conversation. It is used as a catalyst for change, for identity, for worship, for celebration, for mourning, and marking the moments of meaning in our personal and collective lives. As I said a few moments ago, music can express the otherwise inexpressible. Music can give voice to the voiceless. In closing, I leave you with this quote from Mendelssohn's beloved A Midsummer Night's Dream, Act 3, Scene 1, wherein the character of Bodeman says, "I see their knavery, I know what they are up to fright me if they could, but I will not stir from this place, do what they can. I will walk up and down here and I will sing, that they shall hear I am not afraid."